Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Chetna and this is my data world. Here we talk about data, analytics, AI and product. Today I'm going to talk about a special topic and a very important topic. I'm going to shed some light on the EU AI Act and why everyone should know it. Whether you're a developer, a business owner, a regulator, it could be anyone. But if you work with or in AI, then this is a relevant video for you. So let's get started. Here you see the official website of the EU Artificial Intelligence Act. It consists of multiple sections. The first one is the AI Act Explorer, where you can actually take a look at the entire, the whole legal act. So you can go through it when you have time. Otherwise, you also have a compliance checker, which is basically a survey or a questionnaire, which lets people who deploy or develop AI solutions or assess for themselves at what risk level they are and what they can do to be compliant. It is also important at this point to make a differentiation between developers and deployers. Developers are people who build and maintain the AI systems, and deployers are who use them. That means people like AI developers, AI engineers, and so on, who actually take these models and then start building services to provide to the end customer. So there's also another section called the high-level summary, which gives you like 10-minute summary of all the important aspects in the AI Act. There's also a small business guide for, of course, small and medium enterprises, which might help them also understand this framework and also figure out how they can be compliant. Now let's take a look at the high-level summary. The core tenet of AI Act is basically not to look at AI as one technology, but based on the kind of applications AI has. The risk level can vary. And when we talk about risk, we don't only talk about the bias or lack of transparency. We also talk about ethical issues as well as impact on users' lives and fundamental rights. The lowest tier, which is the minimal risk, is the one that can be unregulated. These are very simple applications where not a lot of personal data is used or impacted. For example, spam filters, or it could also be something like video games and so on. Above this lies the limited risk, which means that in these cases, the developers as well as deployers need to make it clear to the end users that they are interacting with AI. For example, these could be deepfakes in terms of image generation. It could also be something like a chatbot, where the chatbot is, basically you're chatting with an AI system. Above this lies high risk. With these kind of solutions, we now get into areas where personal data of the user is now being used or processed in a way that impacts their life. For example, it could be some kind of AI-based recruitment application which selects or rejects your resume based on certain data. These kind of systems are heavily regulated, and developers as well as deployers need to be very compliant in this case. And after this is an acceptable risk, which means these kind of AI applications are regarded as proper threats to users. This could be social ranking systems or manipulative AI uses. A good example of an acceptable risk could be public institutions like banks using personal information to take a decision on whether or not the user gets a loan. It could also be something like policing society based on a predicted score of threat to the society. These kind of things, they really impact people's life, and hence these are unacceptable use cases for AI. The reason why you need to know this framework is twofold. This seems to make sense to businesses that are planning experiment with use cases, that they know which one comes with how much risk, especially in the EU. But then there's also the financial aspect, because not being compliant can run you fines above a sum of 35 million euros. It makes sense for us to understand this framework and also self-audit and figure out what risk classification we fall under and take the necessary steps to be more compliant. The AI Act puts the onus on developers and deployers. Here, developers are companies like OpenAI or Anthropic who develop and build their own generative AI systems, and deployers could be anybody like us, the developers or businesses that use these models and provide certain services or products to end customers. Of course, because OpenAI also has ChatGPT, its own deployment of its models, whatever GPTs go behind it. It is also a deployer in this case. So a particular entity can fall under both categories depending upon what the use case is. We need to be aware of our responsibilities as a developer or a deployer or both. While this act is being touted as one of the most comprehensive AI acts in the world at this point, at least in 2025, 2026, there is some concern from businesses or from the public that this could hinder innovation or the speed of innovation. But I think only time can tell, because innovation that is harmful doesn't really serve the purpose for humanity. Safe innovation is a good bet for us as a society. So that was my summary on the EU Artificial Intelligence Act, and I'll see you next time with another video. Until then, ciao!